I couldn't make this up even if I wanted to. The story of Hitler's bull fever began around the time when World War II was going into full swing. To the Nazis, primeval forests were sacred and home to great game animals. These animals were believed by the Nazis to be the same animals that the Aryans had hunted thousands of years ago. One of Hitler's specific targets was the resurrection of a type of bovine called the auroch. Aurochs are considered to be the ancestor of modern domestic cattle that went extinct in 1627. A Nazi zoologist and member of the SS, Dr. Lutz Heck, seen here practicing his Bond villain impersonation, had begun to work on this project. Nazi zoologists, like Heck, imagined the auroch as a wild animal and a perfect hunting challenge. Heck believed they could recreate the animals through backbreeding, a process of choosing existing cattle species for the right horn shape, coloration, and behavior, then breeding them until they had something approximating the original animal. Note that this was before we understood DNA, so everything Heck looked to for information on aurochs was from archaeological findings and written records. Despite achieving some success, the animals looked like their ancestors, but they were still dependent on humans. Heck wanted these aurochs to survive in the world. In 1938, Heck transferred the aurochs into Goering's hunting reserve. However, the animals were very violent, prone to attack anyone, and disrupted the feeding of deer for local hunts. Despite the obvious setback of these animals, senior Nazi planners continued their plans to naturally change the landscape to create the perfect fascist forest. Where was this land? The Soviet Union. Heck claimed that by Germanizing the land with German trees and German forests and so on, the landscape would be restored to some form of greatness. The overarching idea was to connect multiple forests together and create one primeval forest. Great, we've now jumped from breeding extinct animals to fascist Jurassic Park. Good grief. Following the annexation of Poland, the auroch was introduced into the forest. In July 1941, Battalion 322 had forcibly cleared out land in Belawice Forest in Poland to be a nature reserve for Hermann Goering. The battalion burned down 24 villages and expelled 20,000 people. There were some hiccups to this project. The forest soon became a perfect hiding ground for Polish partisan fighters, and despite fighting for over 3 years, the Germans never got full control over the forest. Sources are mixed on what happened to the aurochs later. Most agree that the population either died out due to being raised on a farm or were likely killed in revenge by Soviet soldiers or Polish partisans. Because, hey, free beef! But wait, I hear you say. Why is this relevant today? I am glad you asked that. Let's fast forward. To expand into the West Bank, Israel had drawn from the Bible to find animals that existed during the time. One animal they found and attempted to introduce into their environment was the Persian fallow deer. How did they create the enclosure for the fallow deer? By driving out the local Palestinian populations, even shooting the dogs. What happened to the deer in the enclosures? The majority of them died. Yeah, it turns out that reintroducing an animal to a habitat it had migrated from thousands of years ago doesn't bode well for its survival. Okay, let's run through the checklist. Use of an animal for nationalistic purposes. Attempting to reintroduce an animal that has not inhabited that environment for centuries. Driving out local, native, indigenous populations to create these enclosures. Reintroduced animals struggle to live in these new enclosures and are killed and or die off. Now, Israel and Nazi Germany aren't the only states to practice this method. But it's important to note that history follows patterns. As good historians, we are called to learn about these patterns and hopefully identify when that pattern starts to repeat. Also, maybe stop breeding extinct animals for nationalistic purposes. I'll tell you right now, it is all bull. I am just glad we at least stopped trying to resurrect extinct animals without considering the Ugh.